Means Committee meeting, 5 p.m. Tuesday, May 17th. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Nicole, you want to do roll call just to confirm quorum before we go further?
Sure. Councilmember Anderson. Councilmember Goshen.
Here.
Councilmember Hahn.
Here.
Councilmember Myers.
Here.
Councilmember Pierce. Councilmember Popson.
Here.
Councilmember Streetman.
Here.
Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Mayor Pounds.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item is approval of previous meetings minutes. Our regular meeting on April 19th, 2022. There are motions.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Any comments, changes, additions? Nicole, that was a lot to capture. in that meeting.
It's off. I was a little confused here and there.
That's all right. It worked.
Councilmember Goshen.
Aye.
Councilmember Hahn.
Aye.
Councilmember Myers.
Aye.
Councilmember Popson.
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ward.
Aye.
Mayor Pounds.
Aye.
All in favor?
Thank you. Next, citizens' comments. Nicole, anybody?
No, sir.
Nope. Thank you. Next is financial statements. Debbie Suggs, take it away.
All right, so we have the April results to discuss. Nothing new necessarily to report. The results continue to look very favorable for FY '22. Year-to-date actual, all funds included, is about $18.8 million in revenues versus we'll say $8 million in expenditures. So we're about $5 million ahead, revenues to expenditures year-to-date. That's all funds together. General fund only, we're about $1.5 million ahead. Some particular revenues in the general fund that look really favorable are business licenses, rental licenses, and building permits. Y'all will recall last month we talked about how we're expecting April to be a very strong month for business and rental licenses because of the April deadline. We felt like we'd get a lot of payments, and we certainly did. Business licenses are 1.7 million, rental licenses are at 1.1, and building permits at nearly $900,000. So we're forecasting significant increases above the budget in those line items. Rental licenses we can talk about in particular because the budget did not account for the 1.5 times revenue that was sort of a windfall that happened this year because of the change in the due dates for rental licenses, the standardization that was required by state law. So we had a shortened rental license for 6 months at the beginning of the year, and then rental licenses renewed for a full year at the same time as business licenses. So they now become due at the same time as business licenses in April. So in fact, we received a 1.5 years worth of rental licenses in FY '22. That will not repeat in FY '23. But it will help produce a pretty favorable revenue to expense calculation for FY '22 in the general fund. And right now I'm expecting about $2.5 million in revenues in excess of expenditures in the general fund. I'm not currently expecting any particular pickup on the expenditure side in the general fund, so that's why the forecast is equal to the budget. I did look at fuel right before we came down here because, of course, everybody's talking about that. The most recent price the city paid for unleaded gas, and this is marine grade unleaded, is 3.76, and diesel is 4.84. But against a budget of 187,000 for the year, we've spent 150, so we might go over a little bit, but it's not going to be crazy for the last 2 months of the fiscal year. So, any questions on that? Real quickly, we'll look at cash, and then I think I can be done. Cash is about 31 million in total. 1.5 million of that is locally at the in Truist accounts, and the rest is at the LGIP, earning 0.5225% in interest. for April.
That's going up, right?
It has.
As well as everything else.
Was that this 0.52%, right?
Which is the highest we've had in quite some.
0.52. Half a point.
Half a percent.
So if anybody's familiar with the rule of 72, you take the interest rate and divide it into 72 to how many years you would take for that money to double. And so right now, we're only at 72 years.
Yeah.
Which is an improvement.
We're trending.
It used to be over 100.
Okay, I do want to talk briefly about tourism revenues because we just got a check today. So municipal accommodations fee, we received a check today for the municipal portion of was $82,759 compared to $68,000 this same month last year. So the trend continues to be positive on accommodations taxes as well. We're currently running 64% ahead of pre-COVID year to date. Pretty good. We also received on that same check a quarterly payment for our county pass-through of $59,000. So I think we'll likely exceed our budget. The county pass-through as well. Hospitality tax continues to do well. And of course, with the new restaurant opening, that'll be certainly will have a positive impact on hospitality taxes. Option sales taxes also trending higher. Not to the extent of accommodations, but still positive. Project worksheets, nothing new on drainage phase 3. I think those Ray's going to talk about some more. And on the docks, just some small ATM expenses associated with construction, admin, and design.
Questions? Capital projects update, Desiree?
All right, so we're scaling back. A lot of the projects are wrapping up or have wrapped up, so we're very excited about that. Both the marina restaurant and the dock rehabilitation projects are complete. Regarding the restaurant, we're essentially waiting on a final meeting with our third-party oversight management company that we worked with Insight, same company we use for the public safety building. We're coordinating a final inspection, making sure everything was done according to the permits and closing that project out. The restaurant opened last Saturday, and I think everybody's already been there or planning to go there, hopefully. The dock rehabilitation project, everything related to construction is complete. All systems are 100% functional. We have the potable water permit on hand, which was a final piece that we were waiting on so that the marina operator could use the water for drinking. It was being used for cleaning and whatnot, but that's on hand, so we're happy about that. Currently, the contractor is working on the as-built and warranty package for us, which is part of their contracted duties as well as a maintenance plan. The 2 windows for the fuel hut they're still back ordered. They are expected this week, and once they get here, they'll be installed. The contractor will install them. But essentially, that project is done. Just minor paperwork to be done, and we'll be closing it out in the next several weeks. For the drainage, 30th and 36th, as you all know, we started that construction. There's a lot of activity happening there at 30th. We'll talk a little bit about the road closure plan for the end of July and August. It's going to be a little bit longer than what we would like and anticipated, but we're working with a contractor to minimize the disruption and minimize the impact. Today, we had a meeting on site with Dominion Energy and Quality Enterprises, the contractor. There is a power pole right at the corner of the ditch there that needs to be relocated and moved about 4 feet away from the ditch. We've received note from the adjacent property owner, not happy with that relocation. We certainly want to work with them to minimize, again, that impact. There currently is a drainage easement there in place. So the goal would be to maintain that power pole and the guide wires within the easement, certainly not on private property. We also had extensive discussion about a temporary relocation of that pole to across the street or a different location while the box culvert is being installed. It is a huge piece of infrastructure that needs to be moved from the truck into the ditch using a crane. And there are overhead power lines right on top of that ditch. So the crane needs about a 15-foot clearance to be able to do that safely. So there's a lot of coordination that needs to happen between Dominion Energy and the contractor looking at alternatives so that we can do that. Dominion Energy, will work with us, but they have indicated that they will not shut off power. They don't do that, and they want to make sure that their customers have power. So anything that happens with essentially live power poles. So we're working through that challenge and encouraging both parties to look at creative solutions to making that happen. Not a whole lot of news, information or updates on 41st Avenue. We have engaged the grant writer to help us develop an amendment to the South of Carolina Office of Resilience, which is the granting agency that is fully funding the construction of 41st Avenue. She's going to be developing in coordination with Thomas and Hutton, the grant amendment to extend our grant award essentially to cover the piping of 41st Avenue. So we're hopeful that that'll be favorable. On the next page, you can see the detour for the road closure on 30th Avenue and Waterway. This is planned to start mid to late July through August. Again, we're working with the contractor to try to minimize that. We've indicated that we would not want or would not authorize a road closure just to store materials. So only when they're actively working on the under the road, installing the pipe. So you'll see that the detour will essentially take vehicle traffic down 30th on Palm Boulevard and then up 31st. I'm sorry, yes. 29th and up 31st. We have sent notices to folks around, that would be impacted. A lot of people are going to be impacted, but those that are adjacent to the construction area, we put notices out on the city's website, and we'll continue to use social media to alert people about the detour.
I don't think we could over communicate on this one. I think we need to.
Yes, and people will still be surprised, but but yes, we will. And again, I know a lot of people are gonna think, who was the brilliant person that came up with a road detour or project in the summer? Obviously, that was not how it was planned, but we want to make sure that this project is completed by the end of the year. That's our main goal.
6 weeks.
Correct.
Is that
Roughly.
Full expectation, or is that? What's the probability of them doing it quicker?
Well, that would be wonderful, but we don't know. That's what we're pushing them to do. There will be another road closure when we go to 36th Avenue,
That's what I'm falling.
but that will be in the fall. So that'll be a little bit easier to manage.
But the initial estimate on this detour, we first were looking at, it was just, what, just a few weeks, wasn't it?
Well,
Instead
but
of 6 weeks.
what I reported last month was inaccurate. I said 5 days. That was
Oh,
not
okay.
accurate. And we've confirmed with the contractor and our engineers, we were reading the schedule wrong. So we've confirmed that. That's why I want to just make it a point that you all know it's going to be longer. We're talking about several weeks. But again, we're pushing the contractor hard to, to try to do something even on the weekends, if there could be plates put on the ground so that we can open it temporarily. So we're working through all those logistics. Trust us. Yes,
Do you know if they have ordered all the pipe and the boxes and all that stuff for this work?
I believe they have. Yes.
Because there's huge lead times on all that stuff right now.
That was the delay. We tried to get it done, but yeah, that is why we're delayed doing it in summer.
Yeah, when we executed the contract in November, December, that's when they were able to start ordering all those materials. And at that point is when they informed us that the schedule that we originally had, which was have this section completed by March, was not going to be possible because they had no ability to procure the materials because of the long lead times.
A lot of materials on site.
Mhm.
Gotcha. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions on phase 3 drainage? All right, comprehensive drainage master plan. Here you can see an exhaustive list of the work that's been completed to date. Essentially, they've started developing solutions for both high priority areas and some of the low priority areas within the phase 4 study area. They've also reviewed our ongoing drainage maintenance schedule and provided some input and recommendations. That work has begun, as well as reviewing our stormwater management policies. Essentially, a lot of the data collection has already been completed. They're currently assessing and developing their recommendations for our capital plan on drainage. Next steps, they'll be developing those cost estimates for the solutions in the high priority areas. That'll help us identify what the next small but high impact project that we're going to pursue in FY23 so that we can start designing that and using, concurrently as they complete this master plan, they can start working, designing that plan so that we can utilize those funds that are allocated for this purpose in FY23. Part of their scope is also helping us identify funding alternatives and pursuing funding grant programs or grant opportunities for projects in the future. Any questions? And then the last project, the underground conversion on 21st and Palm. There's been a slight change done to the estimate that we received from Dominion Energy. They now apparently have to dispose the mud created from the boring in a different way, which will increase their demobilization costs. And that total is about $7,000. So that means that our estimate, our portion would go up about $3,500. And these are just estimates. Once we agree on this, we'll execute the construction agreement and we'll be able to go out. They'll be able to go out for bid and secure the contractor to do the work. So this is still scheduled for fall winter timeline of this year. That's all I have.
Any other questions? Item 6, old business, none, new business, none, miscellaneous business. Our next meeting is 5 PM Tuesday, June 21st. No need for executive session.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.